And then he turns to Darkseid and says, "A little too salty for you, Mr. Craggleface."
Truly the most faithful adaptation of the DC comics.
Oh, it was beautiful. I mean, every true fan knows that Darkseid prefers his popcorn sweet.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was quite funny that Superman was like, if I give him the wrong one.
I
It was my favourite scene.
Them to pull plot lines from Jimmy Olsen, Superman's pal.
Oh, I know.
Especially since they've, unceremoniously killed off Jimmy Olsen in Batman v Superman. But
yeah, but then obviously that younger black Hispanic Jimmy Olsen got bitten by the same shutterbug. And then he drew all the other Jimmy Olsens from the Jimmy Olsen verse, and they taught him to be the best Jimmy Olsen.
Yeah, just like the comic book Olsen verse.
Like my movie, The Creeping
Olsen
Kid.
Verse.
Hi everyone.
Hi.
No, we've not seen Justice League. Shut up. Welcome to Big Damn Cast. Well, nerdy news, geeky gossip, stuff that's fit to fill your time. Because, I mean, it's all we do nowadays, isn't it? Fill time.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. We're here to distract you for a couple of hours a week, minimum.
Just a couple.
Average. And this week we are not talking about the Justice League, or aka Zack Snyder's Justice League, because it's not out as we record. We're recording this ahead of time on Sunday, the 14th. And B, we're getting paid for that shit week one. Are you kidding me?
So it's the UK release was announced a few days ago, and it's going to be free to view for Sky Cinema and or Now TV subscribers.
Mm-hmm. So I was like,
I'm paying for that.
I'm on Now TV. Does that mean I can watch it? It's like, no, you need to have the Sky Movies package.
Yeah, you need
the
the
Now
movies.
TV Movies package. And I'm like, nah, I just got the basic because I use it for the TV. So, no rush. Which is interesting because they did say when they first put out that it was coming out outside, how it was going to be released outside of American territories a few weeks back, about a month ago. They said that it would be, there'd be on-demand streaming options announced nearer the time, and that it would be on home media within a shorter window than you would normally have for a home media release.
Well, if there are those options for the 18th for the release of it, we don't know of them as of yet, but we'll see. Either way,
change. I think the way we're probably going to end up doing it is we're probably going to end up renting it, aren't we? Because I ain't putting cold hard cash down for it. Even if I end up surprisingly enjoying it, I doubt I will.
Well, I don't know how you do your renting, Christopher, but you do put down cold hard cash for rentals.
Yeah, but you don't lay the cash down.
You just put less. Well, not now. We don't because it's unsanitary. But
no one touches cash.
No one touches cash anymore.
Except the window cleaner, which really annoys me. I'm like, I get that you work with cash. I understand that. But at least,
how we...
at least have some gloves on.
You know how we get past that problem?
Go on.
We don't have a window cleaner.
We have a lot of windows.
We just have dirty windows. Christopher.
Stink window. Matstopher holes.
Hello.
Hi. Hello, lovely.
So the Flash film is still going ahead.
Is it? Right, yeah. So, okay, we know it is this time because they got a director who seems to have committed, Andy Muschietti.
Andy Muschietti is directing.
Lovely Andy Muschietti.
The
Lovely
Flash.
beep Richie Andy Muschietti. And also the other week, they confirmed the casting of Supergirl. Supergirl is making her DCEU debut in The Flash, which is kind of wonderfully odd, considering, the CW version of Supergirl was intrinsically tied into The Flash. Do you think they're just sort of doing that as well, it worked there, so we'll do it here too?
I mean, probably, because that... I think the CW Flash show and the CW Supergirl show got so... Well, what became the CW wasn't CW originally. I think they both get a lot right about those characters. So it doesn't surprise me if they are pulling elements from those versions because they were successful, because also this is such a troubled production that they kind of need it to be good.
Yeah. This is, for those who have lost count, the Flash movie that was announced back in 2016 with a sort of tentative release date for 2018
No,
initially.
not 2016.
No?
2014.
That was when they announced it?
Yep.
Shit.
Yep.
I had in my head it was 2016 simply because 2016 was where they went, here's a glimpse of the Flash, and we've already cast him in Batman v Superman Dawn of Jaundice.
But they've done a little bit of work in it because they've cast Nora Allen, Barry Allen's mother.
Aha. Okay.
She's Maribel Verdú, who you'll probably know for like I think
That's the one.
I think these are Portuguese or language movies. I think because they're from South America. Y Tu Mama Tambien and Pan's Labyrinth, of course. She's been cast, but Billy Crudup, who appeared in Justice League as Henry Allen,
as Henry Allen,
Barry Allen's pops, he's dropped out.
What?
So we get one parent, we lose another. It's like the divorce all over again. So
do you think he was just sick of waiting?
Apparently, it's because he's scheduling conflicts with the morning show on Apple TV Plus.
I can't imagine he's devastated to leave this.
Scheduling conflicts.
Based off of the fact that
everyone's old friend.
He'll have to have been bought out of his contract.
Yeah, presumably.
Or they'll have to compensate him for the retainer that he's been on. Because he's been on that thing for years. Like, he's been contracted to play this part in this movie for years. So they're either going to have to buy him out or give him compensation for it.
Well, apparently they had to go into negotiations in October of last year for him to...
It's taken that long?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
For him to get back into it because of, various... whatchamacallit? Various problems with scheduling and such. Guys, this has been such a mess.
It's been a shit show.
But apparently...
It's been embarrassing to see how long the production has lasted on this. It's only made embarrassing by the fact they've made it so public.
Well, also, it's due to be start shooting in April in London.
Yeah.
So, which is a bit of a worry, considering we're still, deep in the pandemic. But I guess, the Batman has just wrapped, and that was filmed in Liverpool.
Shooting around the UK mostly.
Yeah. So it's difficult to say. Also, I think we already knew this, but Kirstie Clemens is reprising Iris West.
From Justice League?
Which she did in Justice League, but we didn't see that footage because it was cut from the final film.
But it is in the Snyder's Justice League.
Because everything and the kitchen sink is in the Snyder Cut. So that's the Flash is happening. It's moving forward. Yeah.
Very slowly.
Yes.
My name is Barry Allen.
My name is Barry Allen, and I am the slowest moving film production at Warner, but that's not true.
Do you think they made a massive mistake? Because look at that initial announcement, that slate of announcements from I guess it would have been 2014.
I think they've made several massive mistakes, but I don't think announcing the film in 2014 was one of them.
No, but I mean, in terms of them just going, here's everything you're going to get. Because they said Flash film, Cyborg film, Aquaman movie, Wonder Woman, Man of Steel 2. And here we are. It's like, nope. A Batman film, a Batman trilogy.
I don't think they said Man of Steel.
Set in that world. I know they said that they wanted to do another film with him, but they hadn't confirmed Man of Steel 2.
Yeah.
But they said that it was in the running. They wanted to do it.
But it wasn't in that
it wasn't like
bunch of
here's a
logos
release
they
date.
put up.
Oh no, yeah, the logos. I mean, Cyborg, I think was the first one that they put a bullet in. And Flash just sort of disappeared off release schedules again and again and again because of changing directors and screenwriters. And at one point, I think it was the previous director was the one where Ezra Miller and them started to rewrite the script themselves.
Yeah.
And just what is going on?
How bad is this script that they can't get it to? I mean, they got
Even if the director changes hands, if they already have a script from the first like production cycle, you usually use that, and they might do some rewrites on it to fit their vision of it a little bit more. But you'd keep the same thing. But by the sound of this, there's probably 3 or 4 versions of this movie that exist in terms of like screenplays.
Well, they let Batman v Superman get made, so it's clear that they don't have much quality control on scripts anyway. So
you win 1 Oscar for your screenplay, and suddenly you're allowed to write all these big properties. It's so weird.
I think The Flash might be sort of tying with Alien 3 for the amount of scripts that have been written and abandoned before they actually got to shooting.
But also it makes me wonder how much of what we saw at the DC Fandom is part of it. Or Comic-Con last year where they announced a few things. Because, like, Keaton's in it.
Yeah.
But is he? Is he, though? Is Affleck in it anymore? Like, they seem to have gone quiet on that front whenever they talk about casting. So have they decided to walk it back? Like, they've put that out there to remind everyone it exists, and then they're walking it back. Are they going to be anything more than a glorified cameo?
Probably not.
What does any of this mean? I don't know anymore. I don't flaming know.
I don't know anymore.
Keaton will definitely be involved, and the giveaway for that is the fact that they've finally gone, yeah, we'll do that Batman 89 comic.
Yeah, probably.
That we toyed with. The fact that they're doing that suggests that there is something in the market soon that can tie into that.
It's a new Batman sequel that disregards all the other Batman. No, I don't know what's going on with this, really. And I don't care, because fuck Ezra Miller.
No, don't. That's what he wants.
No. Oh, I didn't give you an update on The Stand, did I? Finished The Stand.
Oh, yeah.
Which does feature Ezra Miller.
Yeah, fan choker Ezra Miller.
As the trash can man, appropriately enough. Just the worst performance. Like,
is it really bad?
So you know how I was saying that the one dude who plays Tom Cullen like really avoids doing a simple Jack?
Yeah.
And like does it really well. It makes that character really endearing. But Ezra Miller does exactly the opposite with his version of Trash Can Man.
Oh.
It is painful to watch.
Oh God.
But yeah, it's just like I'm gonna do my weird hands, and I'm gonna do a silly voice, and I'm just gonna be non-verbal, like practically non-verbal, but in a really sort of like a parody of Rain Man way. It's really bad.
So he went the seer route then,
yeah,
basically. Yeah.
Yeah. But
great.
Everything else about that show, pretty fucking good. But I just wanted to mention that scene as we're on the subject of Ezra Miller and how he can fuck off. So yeah.
For those who are confused, go and look up Ezra Miller choking. Anyway, and then tell me that Zack Snyder's lot are doing accountability over entertainment like they should be doing or not.
Google Ezra Miller choking, but don't Google Armie Hammer eating.
Oh God! And if you're an Uber driver out in the States, and Armie Hammer orders from you, turn down the job.
Yeah,
turn it down. Go home. I bet some of the current topics and current news happened while we're away, so let's just assume what they were.
But again, I don't care.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier first episode goes out after we've recorded this, but everyone dies in the first minute. Square Enix conference. Life is Strange 3 will be an Avengers DLC and stuff. Okay, there we go. This past week, I fell down a bit of a rabbit hole on YouTube.
Yeah, what was the rabbit hole you fell down?
So, over the last couple of years, we've occasionally touched on any drama surrounding Channel Awesome and the production team of The Nostalgia Critic. We've touched on that from time to time. For those who don't know, for simple context, Nostalgia Critic is a web show that sort of shot to popularity in 2008, 2009, around the time the angry reviewer format began online.
Which I've kind of always hated. So its popularity sort of baffled me.
This is where we're going with this. So that was sort of a thing that happened. Fictional characters as reviewer, and the one that lasted and has still kind of lasted because the creator's been very open about like what is fiction and what's more comedy and la la la, is the Angry Video Game Nerd. But one of his imitators was the Nostalgia Critic. That turned into a web show that, fairly amusing when it's like kept to the simplified format of person commenting on thing. Video is 13 minutes long and then you go on with your day. And that spurned off into all the controversies with the channel, where they had a lot of people logging into their website as producers who were either abused, harassed by the management. They covered up the acts of a sexual abuser.
Yep.
They covered for an owner of the company who was sexually inappropriate towards producers and content creators. People got fired for just not commenting back on a Skype conversation in 15 minutes, having all their revenue streams cut off in one fell swoop. Like, just absolute dickheads who make a web show. And now the website is down to just all the producers left, bar 3. Nostalgia Critic, because that team, of course, are the main one on the site. Brad Jones, who used to be called... What was he called? Besides a shithead.
Goodsmith.
Arse Biscuit.
No.
What was he called? Oh, I think it was a review snob, something like that. And then a guy called Guru Larry, who's stuck on the site just to troll them, basically. Very openly slags off the company and its practices, but because if they drop him, they've only got 2 producers on the site, so he just sort of stays there. He calls it the Channel Awesome Hunger Games. He's like, I'm gonna wait until I'm the last one on the site. It's like, Jesus. But yeah, there's all that stuff. And this past week, a couple videos came out from different sort of video essayists and whatnot online, talking about, like, they've gone beyond the controversy stuff that's been covered, and it's been 2-3 years since. There are people who still watch Nostalgia Critic and stuff like that, and then there are people like myself who avoid it like the plague now, because it's like, why would you support them? Like, why would you, like, obviously not everyone involved in the current production has been part of this, but the people making money are the ones who covered stuff up or were neglectful or abusive, so why would you get involved? If anyone's curious, look up Change the Channel, hashtag Change the Channel on Google for the full story. But the reason I bring it up is these YouTube video essayists in the past couple of weeks have been talking about, like, so how harmful was this discourse in terms of this reviewer style to the internet and film discourse on the internet now? And I watched it and I was sort of going like, yeah, for a couple of years, back it was 2010, 2011, I watched a fair bit of Nostalgia Critic. I used to just, while I'm having a bath, put on a playlist of 2 or 3, leave the tablet up on the thing, just have a bath and watch a couple of them, laugh a bit, enjoy it.
And touch yourself.
Touch myself just a little bit, yeah. And what, you don't want me to wash my genitals while I'm in the bath? So yeah, finger in my arse, and then
you gotta get dirty to get clean.
Oh God. Oh good Lord, no. So I was like, why did I enjoy it? And I think it's because it was consumable. Some of the jokes resonated. I was like, yeah, that's funny. But over time, I've looked back at it and gone like, I sort of left the site watching it in like sort of 2012.
Yeah.
I continued to watch some of the producers. Like I followed Lindsay Ellis when she left the site primarily because she wasn't stuck to the format she'd been given. Todd in the Shadows is a really interesting music reviewer. There's a few content creators from that era. Some Joke with a Camera wasn't like one of the main set. He joined quite late on. His show was sort of brought into the fold.
Yeah.
He's a theme park reviewer with a very like dark and weird sense of humor, and I adore his stuff. He's got a brilliant podcast, plug in a podcast that we don't have to plug, called Escape from Vault Disney, where every week he and a couple of guests are given a random thing that's on Disney Plus and they have to talk about it.
Oh, that might be worth checking out, actually.
And sometimes it's like, an episode of The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, like in the middle of a series. Sometimes it's a Disney classic. Other times it's one of those Sky Ghost thumbnail movies. Do you know what I mean? And they have to watch it and discuss it, like, because that's the challenge. And you get great guests on that, like Jenny Nicholson's done one. There's it's a lot of that Disney theme park kind of culture. So I'm very grateful for finding that site because it helped me discover shows and creators that I still watch and enjoy to this day. But like, yeah, no, fuck that place. And it made me think, what happened? Did something happen that made me start watching? And I think it's because I realised I got it. I was like, yeah, all right, I kind of get what you're doing now. There's not really anything more you can do to surprise or entertain you. Like, it's a thing. And it got me to thinking. Oh, go on.
I think the same thing has happened for me with Red Letter Media.
Yes, we talked about this a while back.
Yeah,
like you're not on
in
on their stuff anymore.
They just spend so much time shitting on stuff in such like a cynical, dejected way that regardless of whether their criticism is valid or not,
or interesting, it's just kind of the packaging.
It's just like,
yeah, you fell out in what I like to call the for fuck's sake, Mike period.
Oh yeah.
Where there was like a year where Mike Slacosta just seemed so miserable in every topic.
Yeah,
like he just seemed so miserable,
and it was just not entertaining to watch anymore.
But there seems to be a period where the rest of the team realise that, because there's a few best of the worsts where they're really kind of harping on him when he's being negative.
I will still occasionally dip into the best of the worst now and again, and the occasional review.
Review's my favourite because it's a focus on positive. They pick a thing they like and they talk about it.
And Mike's not always on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, if it's like a straight up movie review, I'm just like, nah, not doing it.
But this is precisely this is what I wanted to discuss with y'all. And after I shut this at you a couple of hours ago and said, have a little think about this. Is there any media stuff that you have outgrown? Now, for our listeners, I'm not saying like, oh, that's for babies, or like, oh, I'm better than that now. I think that attitude's kind of a nasty one to be like, oh, fuck that, I'm way better than that now. It's like, at some point, it hit the spot for you. Yeah. So, whatever it is, if other people like it, power to them. Great. But it's just an interesting kind of thought to have. Because I obviously at some point outgrew that website and watching the producers in that place, and for me it was because it became samey. But there's other stuff. So I want to throw something out there that's not so much outgrowing the thing itself, but outgrowing the culture around it.
Yeah.
So my first thing that I outgrew, and I feel it's happened in the last sort of 5 years, really, is shitting on the Star Wars prequels. I don't look back at them now as something that every time they're mentioned I have to go, fucking hell. Like, because we know, like we all know.
Yeah, they're not good. We don't need to make jokes about them anymore. Like, we all know Attack of the Clones is it's absolute shit show. It's almost unwatchable.
It's the joint worst Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's not great, but
I think part of it was Rise of Skywalker coming out.
That might have been the final nail. Just like, why have we given those three such a hard time? Like, for me, I've kind of outgrown that mentality of immediately thinking, because I used to think, like, growing up, I was like, they're fine. I got a bit older and went, no, they're shite. And then as I got older, joined the internet.
Well,
and the internet's first massive collective punching bag was the Star Wars prequels.
We rewatched them not long after you got Disney Plus. And, like, Phantom Menace is fine.
Yeah.
Like, it's a bit dull in places, and it's just a lot of...
It doesn't have a main character, it's a bit directionless.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to do any of the things that... It raises a lot of possibly interesting plot threads and doesn't do anything with them.
Yeah.
Attack of the Clones, we actually couldn't make it all the way through.
Yeah.
It was
last time I watched it, I was yelling at the telly because I was just so baffled by the choices.
It's so bad. And then, again, it's really long. And Revenge of the Sith is just, again, fine. Like, there's some actually really neat bits in it. But, like, yeah, I think Clone Wars has helped recontextualize a lot of that stuff. I'm about halfway through season 2 of Clone Wars, and I've watched any for a while. I need to go back to it. But I think that's kind of helped, and the response to that has kind of helped help people reevaluate and sort of redeem some of the characters, particularly. Obviously not the films themselves, because the plots are still bad and still poor films. But pardon me, it's helped to sort of flesh out some of the themes, some of the characters, and give people a sort of fresh take on what that sort of time period in the Star Wars setting is.
Yeah.
So I think that's helped. But yeah, the whole ragging on the prequels.
They are the worst thing to happen to cinema mentality.
Like, no.
That was, I think, only grew because, again, it was like the birth of social media and film discourse and discussion on the internet. Like, we were all once every household or was either already had or nearly about to have an internet connection.
Yeah.
that was the film stuff that people seemed to talk about the most. And
I remember spending a lot of late 2004, early 2005 on theforce.net, eagerly trading Revenge of the Sith theories, rumours, you know, that kind of thing. So there was a huge... For me, that was quite early on in my, you know, access to the internet. So it was sort of a formative time for me with that sort of thing. So yeah, I think you're right. It is sort of ragging on the prequels is...
Like, are we done now?
Yeah.
Like, are we done? It just... It's odd. And I think part of that as well has been the revelations around it.
Yeah.
Like, the life of Jake Lloyd. Fuck me. The films and the films and the response to the films aren't the reason a person makes decisions, but they certainly didn't fucking help what ended up going on in his life.
Yeah.
And his mental state. Ahmed Best.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Well,
like,
I've started listening to another neat podcast, which is called A More Civilized Age. Yeah. It's a Clone Wars rewatch podcast.
Oh, okay.
Done by a couple of the guys from Waypoint Radio and a couple of their collaborators. And they were talking in the most recent episode about how, like, a couple of episodes into season 1, like, in Jar Jar's, like, 3rd or 4th appearance, it's suddenly not Ahmed Best anymore. Because he voices Jar Jar in his first appearances in the Clone Wars. It's Phil Lamar under a pseudonym.
Yeah.
And like, oh, why has this happened? It's because Ahmed Best had to step away from playing the character because the response to Jar Jar from the fans had just become so toxic, and he was so depressed by it that he had to literally take, I think it was like 3 or 4 years before he came back to do the character, to just sort of distance himself from it and get his head together, because he was in such a bad place and the toxic reaction to it. And I think Ahmed Best
again, Jar Jar is not a great character in the 3 films.
Jar Jar's a bad character. There's some really uncomfortable racial undertones going on in there, but Ahmed Best is really doing his best, funnily enough.
Ahmed's doing his best.
Yeah, make it work. Sort of uphill. It's this uphill struggle of this ridiculous character. And so it's... I think part of why I don't rag on... Because it's not just the prequels, it's like stuff in general.
Yeah.
A lot of why... I mean, we rag on the Zack Snyder stuff quite a bit, but that's really bad. But like, I don't...
Yeah, but we're not sending hate mail to Zack Snyder.
No, because...
We're not taking a shit on his lawn. You know what I mean?
Like, we wouldn't spend so much time talking about it if we didn't do a show where we talk about that kind of thing every week. And I don't really spend that much time on...
I still think you and me be texting each other being like, have you seen the state of fucking Steppenwolf in this teaser?
Yeah. But I think...
It looks like someone ran into the silverware section of IKEA and knocked over a bunch of shelves.
As I've grown older, I've sort of become...
someone passing by wearing a Velcro suit.
Fucking hell.
And everything's just static. They just clung to it. Kieran Hines is nearby talking into a plastic tumbler.
Jesus Christ. Sorry, I just got to re-rail my train of thought after you just trampled all over it. Kicked it off like Godzilla. There we go. So, yeah, I don't spend that much time like hating on things in the same way as I sort of used to, because I think I've grown more conscious of the fact that it's people making these things, and a lot of the people that take the hit for it. Like, a lot of the hate for bad films is often directed at the actors, and it is so seldom anything to do with them.
Yeah.
That a project ends up turning out shitty, but because they're the most publicly visible part of the production in most cases, they get so much of the shit. And again, it leads to things like what happened with Jake Lloyd and Ahmed Best and others besides in other projects. But it is that sense of, okay, this is a person doing their work. And in so many of these cases, even with our favourite punching bag, Zack Snyder, like, he is setting out to make something good.
Yeah.
And he cares about. The fact that they fail isn't necessarily always their fault. Like, I think Zack Snyder's a good example of someone whose idea of what is good, quote unquote good, and works is just so far from ours that I don't know. I think if he is making things that are true to the way he wants to work and the way he wants to tell stories, we're just never going to see eye to eye.
Oh God, no!
Like nothing he does. He might consider something his masterpiece, but I'm probably gonna think it sucks because our sensibilities are just so different. So I think I've become a little mellower on that.
But also,
we do play that up on here for laughs.
Oh yeah.
But genuinely,
at the same time, you're not tweeting Zack Snyder every day with abuse.
No,
like
because it's not.
Because what's the point in that? And that's what the prequels and the actors attached to them got for nearly 2 decades now.
If I were to meet Zack Snyder, and he were to ask me what I thought of Justice League, I would probably say, "Dude, I thought that movie sucked." But I'm not gonna go and search him out to say your movie fucking sucks. Go and die. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't need to. We don't need to make whole things of it. Like, it comes up in conversation, it's in the news, we'll mention it. We don't need to, again, going back to Red Letter Media, we don't need to make a review longer than the actual piece of media telling you how bad it is because we're so funny and clever. Like, it's not good. Like, I hate that kind of criticism. It's just that sort of video essay as comedic, hate outpouring. I just think it's so
constructive or deconstructive.
Yeah.
Analytical, sure, but the ones where it's just just pissing all over a thing for 2 hours is like,
yeah.
What are you adding to the discussion?
The Plinkett
here?
stuff, it just could not interest me any less.
There was a time.
It's funny.
But there was a time.
For you, I think, but I think for me, I tried it and was like,
really?
Yeah, it was never my thing, really.
Okay.
Because
hang on, which one of their things did you get into first? Was it Half in the Bag?
The first time I came across Red Letter Media was the Half in the Bag for Prometheus.
Right. Okay.
That was the first Red Letter Media thing that I remember consuming. And after that, I watched a fair bit of Half in the Bag, but I was always more interested in things like Best of the Worst. And then Half in the Bag has just become unwatchable now for me. Because so much of that Plinkett, and understandably so, because it's Mike, so much of that Plinkett stuff has just, and that attitude has permeated it, and it's kind of ruined it for me. Where there's less of that. And things like Best of the Worst, like, everyone knows that these films, they're sort of in on the joke.
Yeah.
Rather than it just being, this new popular film came out and we're going to shit on it because it's a new and popular film. We don't like new and popular films. And we're very vocal about the fact that we don't like new and popular films because they're new and popular films. And good films don't get made anymore. And it's that, and it's like, I know that's not necessarily something, I know that's not what you're trying to say, but it feels like that. And yeah, of course you're entitled to your opinion, but it just feels like you're being contrary. And I don't think that's necessarily... And
like it's an attitude worth growing out of.
Yay!
It's just that idea of and this is why I brought this up as my first one, is like that became the attitude toward these 3 movies specifically, and everyone involved to them. And like we said, they're not incredible cinema by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, they mean an awful lot to a generation of fans of Star Wars and everything too, like those who grew up with these, like where these were the first, or these were the ones on DVD.
I now at 33 cannot make it through Attack of the Clones. I think it's unwatchable. When that film came out, I saw it 3 times in the cinema.
I saw it twice. Yeah. Because as a kid, I was just like, fuck yeah.
3 times.
Fair enough. Let's go. Yeah.
Because it was the wildest shit. And I wanted it. Like, there was Jedi all over the place. Yoda was finally doing a lightsaber fight. And I thought that shit was cool as when I was, 2000?
You were 14 and there was Natalie Portman's abdomen.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, all the hits. But she's a senator.
You want to buy some death
all
sticks?
The hits are there. You don't want to sell me death sticks.
It's Jango Fett.
You want to go home and rethink your life.
Jango Fett's cool as shit when you were a very nerdy teenager. But it's just not. It was like. It is very much an age thing. Like that's kind of the who they were aiming those films at, and I was just right in the right place at the right time to sort of carry that off. And now,
the sweet spot for sure.
I love Star Wars still as a franchise, but I don't like those films. But I'm not gonna.
In front of me right now, by sheer coincidence.
Oh yeah,
I've got the mall with the desert equipment. I've got
Go have a ball with the mall.
Go have a ball with the mall. Qui-Gon there.
Yeah.
Like these are the for those who don't know what the fuck's going on. I'm showing Matt some action figures. Got Battle Droid here. I've got Obi-Wan. The Phantom Menace came out and I was 99, wasn't it?
Yeah, 99.
I was 8. Like that shit was my jam.
I was 11.
And I loved it because I'd watched the previous 3, the original trilogy, so much that it was like, oh, there's more Star Wars?
Yeah, that was the thing.
Yay!
Because there's more Star Wars, but I also wasn't a kid who could afford to buy all the books and all the tie-in stuff. Like, that was what, older nerds who had jobs did.
We were kids.
Yeah, I was a kid.
Which fun thing.
I couldn't go out and buy that week's new Star Wars release.
And that's the reason why I've sort of grown out of the funk for the prequels, because I've sort of grown out of wasting time ragging on them. Like, if someone wants to say, so what do you think of Attack of the Clones? I'll be like, oh, fuck, let me tell you what I think of Attack of the Clones. But I won't go out of my way to just automatically hate it. Do you know what I mean? Like, to automatically have a shit on it every time it's mentioned. Like, this, can we, like, so basically, first one for Room 105, copyright. I'm submitting, I've outgrown casual hatred for the Star Wars prequels, because ultimately, what's the point? Like, what's the point? What's the point? What's the fucking point? And go and watch that Jedi Challenge show on YouTube, because Ahmed Best to Jedi Master who leads it. It's basically Crystal Maze meets Jungle Run, but Star Wars, and it's really fun.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Have you seen any of that?
Fun. I haven't seen it, but it sounds good.
It's sort of set in like the prequel era, but it's a game show, so it's not like canon, but they've said that the character in it and a couple of the other characters that appear in it will be appering in the comics and stuff.
Yeah, it's canon with two ends, not canon with one end.
Yeah.
As in, people get fired out of cannons because it's like the Crystal Maze.
And,
Which, do people get fired out of cannons in the Crystal Maze? What the fuck am I talking about? You know what I mean?
Cross, Mumsy will be. And they Ahmed Best is a Jedi Master who teaches the Padawans and gets them through the assault course, and he's fucking swag as hell. He's great. So, go watch it. Matt.
Yeah.
What have you outgrown?
Well, this isn't a recent one. This is something that happened a long time ago.
Oh, aye.
But it's kind of the first thing that came to mind when you talked about outgrowing things. And
your baby clothes.
So my sort of feelings on and reactions to comedy have changed a lot over the years. But particularly something that hit really hard when I was the right age that now I would not, like, I am embarrassed by.
Yeah.
Is the sort of teen comedy boom of the late 90s, early 2000s,
yes.
particularly the American Pie films.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, 1,000 times, yeah.
Loved the shit out of those at the time.
So this is the sophomoric American sex comedy with gross out humor and dude bro mentality sort of stuff. That was basically the entirety of the late 90s to mid 2000s. Yeah,
so your American Pie, your Road Trip.
Jesus.
I think Freddy Got Fingered fits into that, but it's such a sort of.
That one's oddly specific.
Yeah, it's such a transgressive sort of That's not the right word. I am a believer of the theory that Tom Green knew exactly what he was doing and was trying to make the sort of stupidest, most avant-garde. It just literally was sort of playing chicken with the studio, and how much money would they give him to be as stupid as he possibly could. So I think it's I always see that as a sort of weird art project more than a film. But I don't think I could go back and fucking watch it because it's
it's not good. Like, it's not good, but it's fascinating.
Yeah. Whereas things that the ones that are sort of more earnest, like your American Pies and your Road Trips,
the ones that have the forced sentimentality in the third act, where the character suddenly is like, "I'm sorry, I was a dick," and they get together with their they're inevitably straight pairing, and then they're together and it's sweet, and everyone else is still gross but happy for them.
And it's the pop punk soundtracks and
Jesus,
because that was kind of the music that I was listening to at the time, and I was in a band and was playing that kind of music, or trying to.
Who are you aiming for? Simple Plan or? Well, everyone was aiming for Simple Plan. Let's be honest. It was
sort of Green Day-ish.
Green Day-ish.
Yeah.
Oh god, what was it? What was the? Oh, I was in one of those films. It was like the staple. Fuck. There was a song at the expense of the dude who's singing about someone's mum. It wasn't Stacey's mum, but that kind of sound. It'll come to me. There's one song where in one of those films it's like somebody bragging about like
it's probably a Blink-182 song,
shagging someone else, and it was just like, this is the sound. I guess. This is the attitude of all of this stuff.
Yeah, and it just
is But
it's been a long time since I've revisited any of that stuff, but I just can't imagine going back to it now and sitting sort of getting anything from it, because like just thinking of the jokes that went out, I'm just like, I know you know me, I'm no fucking prude. Anyone who listens to this podcast will know that I'm not averse to crass humour, but it does have to be funny.
Yeah,
and I don't think any of that stuff is funny.
I think I know what brings you into it at first. It's when you're a preteen or a young teen, you feel like you're being allowed. You feel like you're being allowed at the adults' table. You feel like, I shouldn't be watching this. Oh, I'm a grown up.
Yeah,
dick jokes.
And it's
jokes,
sort of like
boobies. You're just like, okay.
And it's sort of like, oh well, this is this where I'm going to go as a teenager? Is this kind of what my late teenage years are going to be like? And you sort of, in that sense, I think it's supposed to be aspirational to the sort of younger audience of it. But it's something I outgrew a long time ago, but it's definitely the first thing that came to mind, because it's just, by the time American Pie 3 came along, I was already firmly out of that.
I mean, talk about forced sentimentality in the third act. I mean, it's literally the third film, and it's about the two leads getting married.
Yeah. And then
while everyone else is still having gross out sex adventures.
Yeah. And it just... So by the time that came along, I was already firmly out. And that was only a couple of years later. So it...
Yeah, they came out over like a 5-year span, I think.
Yeah. So it was quite a quick thing that happened. I'm guessing some sort of things changed in my life that just... where the movies didn't land so much, but it was definitely a growth thing of like, okay, I've grown past these films. These are just, and again, like, they're not atrocious. Like, they're just kind of goofball sex comedy. I think probably some of the humour in them is problematic. Again, I haven't revisited for so long. I would imagine the nature of them as sex comedies points out some problematic humour in them, but like, I don't think they were like terribly made or sort of like absolute cinematic disasters. Like, they were probably fine as far as like, you know, sex comedies go.
Oh, as far as those sex comedies coming in here with their balls all shiny.
Yeah, I just like thinking of Eugene Levy in those films.
Oh yeah,
just makes me cringe, and it's not it's not Eugene Levy's fault. Like,
no,
he's just doing what he does, and it's just ha ha ha.
Well, that's the thing. Sometimes those films trick you into thinking they're more than that sort of shit.
Yeah.
Because another one I outgrew, it's not a sexy, gross-out teen comedy.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely in that same fucking wheelhouse.
Yep.
Take our younger listeners back. 1997 was the year where DVD players started to appear.
All right.
Super expensive, but they were appearing. They were showing up on shelves for people. 1999 was kind of when people were here in the UK. Like, it was more common for people to have a DVD player.
I got mine late 99, early 2000 because I got the Matrix. As so many people did.
And that was the thing. After the machines started coming out in 97, 98, and not everyone was buying them because they were expensive as fuck, and the DVDs were expensive as fuck, 99, 2000 was when they started selling DVD players cheaper and usually bundled with a couple of films.
Yeah.
Or with, like, you know, you buy the DVD player and you can pick 2 movies from the selection of 20 because they were just sat there. Meaning that... obviously, there was the novelty of having a DVD player. You got a DVD player, and the first lots of films that were coming out for the first few years were just new releases.
Yeah.
Like, it was almost like an event when an older film came out on DVD. They'd make a thing of it.
Yes.
Like, you know, Disney from the Disney Vault, and you know, out now for a limited time. The Star Wars one was like, get it now before it's gone, dun, and all this on the trailers.
Special editions with documentaries and commentaries and actually, you know, lots of like supplemental material.
I have still somewhere in this room. I have a copy of The Matrix, the version they put out that's like a 2-disc edition with a big fold-out center bit, and like all this artwork on it. And that was like the whole. If you didn't get that in the first month, you were screwed. Like, that was the version. I was bought it as a gift. I was like, oh shit, because I was 99, 2000. The DVD would have come out, wouldn't it? So, yeah, because you got yours then. So I would have been like 9, and I'm way too young to be watching this, but I'm not going to say a damn thing to my mum because someone's obviously bought it for me, and it's cool, and I want to watch this cool thing. But that meant that a lot of screwball comedies and these sex comedies were big in the early 2000s because they were out at the time, they'd come onto home media, and they tried to do not necessarily a family-friendly version of these comedies, but ones that they could sell to a younger audience for a time.
Okay.
Including a film that age 10, 11, I thought was fucking brilliant.
All right.
2001's Rat Race is a movie.
Oh, God.
Where a bunch of...
Yeah, this completely passed me by. I remember seeing
unlikable pricks, essentially.
Everywhere.
Yeah, it's like unlikable pricks bar 2 characters who are clearly the nice ones who are going to get together at the end and have a lovely life together. Are challenged by a millionaire called Donald P. Sinclair to use these clues to find a locker with, let's double check, $2 million in cash waiting for them in Silver City, New Mexico. And essentially, he's like, I just want to give it up. You guys go. Like, you come to Vegas, you all got this invite. You've got however long it takes. First one's there, get $2 million in cold hard cash. Off you go. And then as they piss off, it's revealed that a bunch of millionaires are betting on which one will get there first, and that's how he's like getting something out of this. So it's a bunch of unscrupulous shitholes trying to compete to get across the country. It has a seemingly all-star cast. The millionaire in question is John Cleese wearing like comedy veneers. Your likable romantic leads are Breckin Meyer and Amy Smart. Cuba Gooding Jr. It was one of those movies where he was like, I guess I'll do a comedy now. I've got my Oscar. I'll just do a comedy and tit around for a bit.
And then just continue to tit around for the next 20 years.
Seth Green and Vince Villa for in it as a double act. Lenny Chapman, Whoopi Goldberg, John Lovitz, Rowan Atkinson, sort of most famously, he was sort of the one where everyone was like, what? Because from the trailers, you wouldn't be mistaken to think, is that Mr. Bean? Is he playing Mr. Bean in this movie? He's basically playing Mr. Bean in this movie. He's playing a narcoleptic Italian tourist, is how it's described.
Sure.
So the comedy of him is he doesn't speak English and he's a physical comedy character, and every now and again he falls asleep. You're like, okay, right. It's goofy. It's weird. There are Hitler jokes. There's a character who's got tongue piercings and can't talk properly and falls in love with a woman who also has a tongue piercings and can't talk properly. There's piss and poo and fart. It's where if you've ever
piss
heard,
and poo and fart.
if you've ever heard me, use when I've been with you in a physical room in the before times, and I've been like, I'm just popping to the toilet. If I've ever made the joke where I've said, I'm prairie dogging, that's a reference to Rat Race. It's the only thing that's stuck with me from this movie over the time. Prairie dogging, in case you're wondering, is when you're so desperate for the toilet, for a certain thing, that you begin to poke your head out the hole like a prairie dog. So there you go. And that's from this film. It's shit. Like, it is really shit. Now, we owe it a lot. This film is kind of the start of Robot Chicken in terms of the DNA. Because you've got, like, Breckenmeyer and Seth Green. This is where their sort of collaborative stuff began that leads into their work with Matthew Senreich, which leads into Robot Chicken. Like, we get stuff like that from this. It's just great to see Whoopi Goldberg in anything nowadays, because she's so often not acting in stuff anymore that whenever she pops up in anything, it's a joy to see her. This is back before we knew that John Cleese was a casual TERF.
Amongst other
and
things,
that Rowan Atkinson didn't quite understand how to talk about censorship without sounding like a bigot. And Wayne Knight's in it. Yay.
Always plus.
It's before we knew Dean Cain was a cunt. He's in there.
Yeah.
So you can see why at the time I was like, all these actors that I'd liked in stuff growing up, loved them to bits. And, Seth Green, he's funny. He was in Austin Powers, he's funny. Oh, he was Oz in Buffy. Yay, this is great. There just came a time where I realised, the fuck am I watching? And do you know what it was that made me realise?
What's that?
Watching the Naked Gun films a couple of years later. I finally got around to watching the Naked Gun stuff. So, the Frank Drebin,
Had you not seen it before?
I hadn't at that point.
Oh.
I'd seen a bunch of Leslie Nielsen stuff. I'd seen Wrongfully Accused. I'd seen Airplane. I'd seen Dracula Dead and Loving It. And I'd seen the oft-forgotten, and that's fine, Spy Hard.
I've not forgotten about Spy Hard.
Worth watching for just the opening titles, which is a James Bond opening sequence sung by Weird Al Yankovic. And that end note that he has performed that song live. There's a gag where at the end he holds this note like for 40, 50 seconds, then his head explodes. And he has performed that song live at concerts during encores for a laugh. And he holds the note every time. It's like, Jesus Christ, Al. How?
He's an incredible vocalist. Like, some of the shit he pulls
good.
is... like, in terms of, like, breath control and diction and speed is...
I mean, the Hamilton Polka.
That's
the bit where he hits, Right Hand Man in Hamilton Polka. He's not speeding it.
No.
Like, it's just... It's mind-blowing. And, like freaking... Daveed Diggs is only doing it, like, a fraction slower in the show. But it's like... Yeah, Daveed Diggs raps. It's one of the things that he does. Weird Al is not a rapper. He's an accordion player and comedy musician.
He's a little bit of everything, though, isn't he?
He's faster than Daveed Diggs is. It's like, what the fuck? Brilliant. But, I then finally got around to watching Naked Gun. I think it's because the first one's a 15 certificate, so my dad was always a bit, like, hesitant to show it to me. And then I was like 13, 14, you went, here it is. And I love it. I absolutely love it. DNA of Airplane, like that whole kind of perfect... there is stuff that hasn't aged well, but it is really like a 90...
problematic elements to the Naked Gun films.
Oh, yeah, but it's like...
not least the presence of one of the lead roles of a murderer.
Yeah. That's a bit of a big one. But he ain't seeing any money from the Naked Gun sales, folks. So... the juice may be loose, but he ain't getting any money for this.
And as I was reminded by Lindsay Ellis's recent video, there is some real transphobic shit in the third one.
Oh yeah, fucking
really
hell,
rough stuff.
Yeah, to the point where any future release or stream should probably come with a content warning at the top end. We're talking, folks, Ace Ventura levels of. Oh, for fuck's sake, I forgot that was in there.
Yeah, certainly on.
There's a reason why Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls, is the one that survived.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think again, I can sort of pull from that into into my next one, which is, again, comedy ones, and it is, again, it's a bit more of a vague catch-all, but it is like the sort of, the character comedy.
Well, yeah, okay, so, just to make sure how much this segue is going to fit in with Rat Race, right?
Yeah.
Does yours have one of the three movie uses of Smash Mouth's All-Star in the early 2000s?
I don't remember.
Because that's how Rat Race ends.
Oh.
It ends with a Smash Mouth concert, and they sing All-Star.
I will say, there is, floating around on the internet, someone who, they Google translated All-Star, I think into Sumerian,
Right.
and then retranslated it back into English. That's worth a giggle.
Holy shit, I've just looked this up for a laugh. All-Star. Right, these are the films that used All-Star. Right? Used All-Star by Smash Mouth. We obviously can't play music in this podcast, but if any of you are wondering what song we're talking about, there you go, you've got it in your head. It first appears in the 1999 Inspector Gadget movie.
Oh!
It then appears in the film that it was the tie-in single for. Can you remember which film that was? Like the characters from that film feature in the music video. I'll give you the cast: William H. Macy, Ben Stiller, and Hank Azaria. Kel Mitchell plays the best role in it. Eddie Izzard's in it. Jeffrey Rush.
Mystery Men. Mystery
Yay!
Men. Jesus, I couldn't.
I've not gone back to that in years, but that was one of our first DVDs. The first DVDs we owned at my dad's when he got the player that came in the bundle were Mystery Men and Wild Wild West, because apparently we had no taste.
Wild Wild West is not good.
Oh, God, no. It then features heavily in Rat Race. Shrek is then the fourth film to use it.
Oh,
God. But because of that, that's why, after an early screening of Shrek, the band members were impressed and ultimately agreed to perform the new rendition of I'm a Believer for the ending. What else? Polygon is the only song in the musical for what? Oh, what? All-Star, the best Broadway musical. An unstaged musical theatre adaptation of the song.
Oh my
All-Star,
God.
the Broadway musical, has been written and officially sanctioned by the band. It's the only song in the musical being adapted into various genres and styles.
So, this is something that popped up on Twitter that Keeks found. This is someone who translated Smash Mouth's All-Star into Aramaic.
Yeah.
And then back into English.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Are you ready for this?
Hit me.
I can't do it in the tune because it's too many syllables. There was one who said unto me that the universe was going to cause me to tremble, that I am not the sharpest cutting implement in the storehouse. She had the appearance unto me as a stupid one, with her finger and thumb in the frame of a Greek gamma upon her forehead. Behold, the years begin coming, and do not cease from coming. Fed unto the axioms, and I fell upon the earth and ran. It was not acceptable if not to live for the sake of pleasurable things. Your brain increases its wisdom, but your heart increases its stupidity. A great amount to do, a great amount to see. Therefore, there is no difficult problem if we take the streets of the backside. You will not know if you do not go. You will not shine if you do not glow. Behold, currently, you are entirely a star child. Begin your power. Go. Laugh. Behold, currently, you are a master of the music. Begin your singing. Acquire your wages.
Please send that to me. I wish to print that out on a motivational poster and look at it every time I'm a bit sad.
Behold, currently, you are entirely a star child.
Oh, yes, I am. Oh, Jesus. What is your goofball comedy that you have outgrown?
Well, it's not so much a single film as it is a particular subgenre, and it's the sort of the character comedy. And the two main examples I can think of it as the first Ace Ventura, and to a degree the second one, I know you have a soft spot for that, but I think a lot of the humour in it is not quite as problematic as the first one, but it's kind of the same flavour.
Yeah, I mean, I mostly admire it because it's a family film. It's a PG. They purposefully tone down the dark and noir stuff and make it a family film.
Yeah.
And yet there is a naked man clawing his way out of the rubber
That is
arsehole
a
of a
good
rhinos.
gag. Like, that's a good... It doesn't need to be any problematic stuff in there for that to be a good gag. That's just a good gag.
Oh, that makes me... it just makes me happy it's in a kid's film.
Yeah.
An animated series spun out of this movie.
Yeah.
The movie where a man climbs out of a robot rhinoceros's vagina...
But I think...
naked and sweating.
I think that Jim Carrey's in a lot of these.
Yeah, I see where this is going.
Dumb and Dumber. Things like that.
Yeah.
Me, Myself and Irene.
Oh, no, yeah.
The Cable Guy.
Never been fond of it, really. I always thought it wasn't as bad as everyone let on, but that seems to be a thing that's happened since people have gone, why did we all give it a hard rap? And it seems to be because it wasn't a Jim Carrey movie.
Yeah.
But it's still, the DNA's there.
And also things like, another big one is Mike Myers doing Austin Powers. Like that. Spot in front. But it's that kind of thing where it's the whole sort of film...
It's a sketch stretched out into 90 minutes.
Like, it's a sketch character, but they've made it into a film. And I think... that again, it's that a lot of mine are comedy because my feelings on comedy and also my sensitivities to the targets of a lot of this comedy has changed. But I used to love the first two Austin Powers movies. By the time Goldmember came around, I'd kind of started to grow out of it. But now going back and thinking about it, I'm just like, that's garbage. It's all garbage. And it is very much about the tone and also particularly in the Austin Powers example, the sort of ego on display of I'm the lead of this film and I'm going to play all these characters in it. And
Despite the fact Dana Carvey should have played Dr. Evil because it was his impression of Lorne Michaels that Mike Myers was ripping off. So much so their friendship broke apart for about 7 years.
Yeah.
Garth and Wayne were no longer friends for 7 years because Wayne stole Garth's shtick.
Because it's just...
But then Dana Carvey made Master of Disguise, so he's got no good sense, really, at that point, either. But he also made The Dana Carvey Show, which, if you can find it online, is fucking great. Mostly for very young Stephen Colbert's and Steve Carell.
Oh, yeah, because that's the one with the sketch of the waiters disgusted by food.
Yeah.
From, which is one of the finest examples of, Steve Carell just giving amazing non-verbal comedy. Just so good. Just thinking of his facial expressions in that sketch just cracked me up. It's just
all they're doing is reading out the specials and trying not to vomit, and it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. But what you're saying is you wouldn't like that and would have outgrown it if it were a 90-minute movie about two waiters trying not to vomit.
Even
I kind of get what you mean.
I think Steve Carell did a couple of these, things like The 40-Year-Old Virgin. And, or it's the whole sort of joke of the film is the lead characters.
If the lead character could be summed up as a sketch, then you don't need to make them the star of a film. Some films avoid that brilliantly. I am a proud advocate of the 1998, I want to say, movie Bean, the ultimate disaster movie.
That's great because
it's not about Mr. Bean.
Also, why it works so well is Mr. Bean is silent. He's a silent film character essentially.
Yeah.
So
it's a situational sort of a farce centered around Peter McNichol's character.
Yeah.
And what happens in his life when he has to take care of this guy who's there, on the exchange trip for the American Gallery.
Yeah.
It's a Mr. Bean movie. What should we do? Let's not make a Mr. Bean movie. Let's make a movie about something going horribly wrong, and Bean just happens to be in it and not helping the situation. But he's not. The sentimental arc of the film doesn't rely on stretching out a 15-minute silent TV sketch character.
Yeah.
and it works because of that. Yeah,
but it also avoids the pitfall of
it's the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. It's better when Jack Sparrow's a side character or one of the cast, not when he's the main one.
But it also avoids the pitfall that so many of these fall into, where it is a case of this sketch character, like so many sketch characters, has a catchphrase or quotable lines, but like it's just the one for like everything Austin Powers. Austin Powers is the worst for this. A lot of like the stuff Ben Stiller did in the early to mid 2000s.
Stiller's still a sore point for me, and I kind of felt that at the time. Yeah,
Zoolander. I think Tropic Thunder was brilliant because it was an ensemble one of these.
It was a melting pot of these different talents,
and also sort of poked fun at that sort of subgenre with it was
revisionist. Yeah,
in terms of like what that Jack Black's character,
yeah,
and the character, the actor that he plays, like being famous for this sort of this Nutty Professor-esque franchise.
Yeah.
Which again is another one of these, like all the stuff Eddie Murphy was doing with Nutty Professor and its sequels,
Doctor Dolittle,
not so much. Norbit,
was
it, and
the majority of the SNL films fall into this. Things like MacGruber and stuff like that.
Yeah, but it's that.
I think the only SNL one that escapes it is Wayne's World, based on your taste, but that's again because it's more just a love letter to rock music and that culture at the time.
Yeah, because I think the problem with a lot of these films, that the reason that I don't like them is there's something mean-spirited about a lot of them.
Yeah.
Zoolander. Anchorman is a big one.
I never got that. I never got it.
But it is that kind of thing. It's a sketch. They made a film of a sketch.
Yeah. And when I watched it, I was like, I admire the performance. As a performer, I like watching the skill of these people bouncing off each other in clearly improvised stuff.
Yeah.
But like I think that might also be because I spent like £3 on it.
Yeah.
Like, rather than seeing it in the cinema and spending 18 quid to watch it on a screen. I paid £3 for it like 6 years after it came out and went, yeah, alright. Okay, sure. Anchorman 2, I think, is better because it sticks to a story and everything, and it isn't just.
Well, I think the problem
isn't
with
this hilarious? Aren't these people hilarious?
They're both
Let's
sort of
put
like
them in places.
Improv heavy comedies, and they fall into the trap of like, what is funny for you and your famous mates improv group isn't necessarily funny for the audience. And it's the problem that the 2016 Ghostbusters had, where a lot of the actual really good moments in that film were smothered by not editing it and letting them play.
Down. Yeah.
Like, if it had been tightened up, I think it would have been a lot better. But they just either, I think,
turned the camera on and they riffed, and then they went, "Oh, that's funny. Oh, do that again. Do that now instead.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really funny. I'm just gonna let you guys come up with whatever."
With those actresses and letting them do their thing, that he just didn't sort of have the
awareness.
It's just the sort of ruthlessness that you need as a
director and as an editor,
to be able to say, okay, well, we need to pull that back because it's actually not serving the story. As much as I like it, it's not helping, and it's actually not that funny.
Do the Will Ferrell comedies of the 2000s fall into this? I know obviously we mentioned Anchorman, but things like Talladega Nights and what was it called? The ice skating one. I don't know.
Blades of Glory.
Blades of Glory. That's it.
John Heder as well. I've not seen a lot of them.
Do you think that's because you'd already outgrown it by that point? You were like, I can't be doing with this.
Yeah, I guess. That being said, I've seen Blades of Glory, and I think that's not too bad. But again, because it's more of an art, like, it's less focusing on that one character, and it's got this sort of strange ensemble around them. Whereas things like Austin Powers, it's an ensemble, but the two main characters
there's a lot of charming performances and gags, but like you said, it's the
two main characters are Mike Myers.
And then he plays 3 characters in the second
yeah.
one,
Well,
and then 4 characters in the third one.
And it just collapses under this sort of this sketch stretched out thing. The other ones, like your Ace Venturas, they just tend to be solely focused on that one character who seems to exist in a different world to all the other characters. Whereas, like that Blade of Glory, everyone's on the same page.
Yeah.
With that. Because, the villains is Amy Poehler and Will Arnett. As their sort of, like, slightly creepy figure skating duo. And John Heder and Will Ferrell bounce off each other quite nicely. But, so I think that's... And I haven't seen a lot of the other stuff. Like, I haven't seen Talladega Nights. But I think that it's possible that there's sort of more ensemble nature that you get with things like Tropic Thunder, Blades of Glory, etc., etc., kind of offset a lot of the things I don't like about the character comedies. But that being said, a lot of that humour still isn't funny to me. But it's not as sort of egregious.
It's not the bull in the china shop.
Yeah, it's not as
others,
just sort of just obnoxious as a lot of the other stuff that I've seen.
On a dare, will you watch Holmes and Watson?
Only...
Which is basically that, but it's Ferrell and John C. Reilly are both just like fucking idiots for no reason, and everyone else around them isn't an idiot, and that's the premise of the movie.
I will watch Holmes and Watson in 2 situations.
Okay.
1, we are together and we get very drunk and we do a commentary.
Oh my god.
Or 2, we are together and we get very drunk and we stream it.
Maybe it's the pandemic and the lockdowns talking, but I want nothing more.
Yeah. If that was to happen, I would watch Holmes. With you and a lot of alcohol by my side, and the opportunity to riff on it for other people's entertainment, I would quite gladly watch Holmes and Watson.
Okay. Well, that could be our benchmark. When we get out of lockdowns and we're both either vaccinated or safe to be around each other.
Will Ferrell is a lesser sort of offender on this sort of character comedy subgenre because he has a lot of other actors around him.
Yeah,
but I think your worst ones are your Mike Myers and your Jim Carreys, where it's
and
very much about, and Eddie Murphy, where it's very much about them. Like, it's so much about them. And it is that sort of the ego and the cynicism and the mean-spiritedness that is sort of in those scripts is just sort of... it's something that I've recognised more as I've got older. And it sounds like I've become a bit of a stick in the mud as I've got older, and I guess I kind of have, because, life is fucking awful right now. Society's fucking awful right now, but it just...
You also get older and you forgive less. Like, you're less forgiving over things that are like either harmful or contribute to things being more harmful.
You forgive more in allowing people to sort of be, themselves more, but you forgive less in terms of being able to recognise and shout out intolerance and like punching down humour. I've got one more for after this. If you've got one more that I really want to go
I've
into.
absolutely got one more.
All right, you do yours, and then I've got another big one.
Okay, so my final example is, this is something that like I used to go to bat for a lot, and I've just kind of outgrown it, probably because it's outlived its usefulness entirely now.
Yeah, okay.
Because I've seen it done better, so much better that I go, yeah, what. And I'll always have a soft spot for it. I'll always have a soft spot for its soundtrack, and in particular, 2 of its performances. But the movie that I have outgrown is 2003's superhero action-adventure romance film, Daredevil. It was kind of my proper introduction to the character of Daredevil.
I think it was for a lot of people, because he's never an A-list Marvel character.
He popped up in a couple Spidey books, but I never really got the gist. And then Spider-Man comes out in 2002, riding off the back of Blade and X-Men and creating the beginning of the superhero movie boom. Suddenly, everything that Fox and Sony and co own, they're like, right, quick, Make films of it. Let's go. Warner Brothers like, we've not done a Superman in forever. I mean, we've been trying to do a Superman for ages, but like, just put one together. And we'll get that Batman reboot going on that we've been toying with, and la 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 la. And it's all down to Blade warming it all up, X-Men keeping the door open, and then Spider-Man knocking the fucking door down. We have a lot to thank Spider-Man for. I revisited it last week, and it was delicious.
It's very good.
It's so good. But Daredevil was 2003's effort from Fox. Two of the Fox movies in 2003, because the other one was X2, X-Men United, or X-Men 2, if you're nasty. And Daredevil is... Oh, Jesus. It's not good. There is a good film in there. There absolutely is. And again, I've said it before, I'll say it again. The director's cut does a lot to make up for the version that came out theatrically. The director's cut, the theatrical version, is 103 minutes. And the director's cut is much fucking longer than that. It's longer by about half an hour, just over half an hour.
There's a good chunk of stuff in there, yeah.
Reintroducing subplots, mostly one to do with Matt Murdock's actual job as a lawyer and how one of the cases that he and fucking Nelson are dealing with leads into the main plot and the steady reveal of Wilson Fisk as the kingpin of crime. Like, it does, they get rid of the sex scene, so the whole thing with Elektra feels more like it's a love that they would never know. They finally each met somebody who they connected with, and they didn't even get to kind of be romantic, be intimate by the time her life is taken in the third act. And it just sort of adds a bit more poignancy to it in the director's cut, whereas in the film it's like, we're hot, we bang, she die, I am devastated. And it's like, you literally just met her, you had sex, and then she died.
Oh no, I die. She die. I do a sad.
Whereas in director's cut, it's like, you two are really starting to bond. Have you actually managed to find someone you can let your guard down around? Oh no, she died. Now we'll never know. And it's like, there's more to it. But we got to get the sex scene in the film. Because they've got to have a Batman Returns moment where their hands are on each other's body and they're feeling each other's scars. And it's like, what? Why? Like, she's not a crime. Elektra's not a crime fighter in this. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So anyway, yeah. There is stuff about it I love. There genuinely is. I think Jon Favreau's a really fun Foggy Nelson. And he brings out the better performance in Affleck in the scenes where it's just Matt and Foggy, talking to each other. Michael Clark Duncan is a fantastic Kingpin.
Yeah, phenomenal.
He's really good as the Kingpin. Like, he's Kingpin's like my joint favourite Marvel. Well, Spidey's my boy, so my favourite Marvel villains always tend to lean towards Spider-Man characters. And for me, it's Kingpin and Green Goblin, like the two that I'm like, oh, I love them. I love those characters. And I love the Kingpin. And I hated the Kingpin of the 90s animated Spider-Man series, because the voice was good, but it was just this weird, it was just too pompous. I was like, nah, he's got to be the coolest motherfucker. Like, either because people are either he's so stony that people are intimidated by him, or that he's so on his shit that everyone can't help but kind of respect him. Do you know what I mean? There's a hustle element to the Kingpin. I never like it when the Kingpin is in charge of everything in New York. I like it when there's still some territory to cover, because it shows how dangerous he is, that he's like, I've got this. It'll be mine. And you're like, God, wow, okay, he's intimidating. And Michael Clark Duncan plays it like the sort of coolest fucking cucumber you could ever have. That reveal shot of him, the camera just pans up and he's just smoking the fattest cigar you've ever seen in your life. And it's just like, you look so fucking cool. He reprised the role briefly in the MTV Spider-Man animated series, and it was like, oh, this is so much better now because it's him voicing him. This is great. He's fantastic. Joe Pantoliano as Ben Urich is really fun casting. He plays it really well. But obviously, the goddamn credit's got to go to Colin Farrell as Bullseye, who, like, everyone's just like, oh, what's he doing? He's just over the top. It's like, have you ever read a comic with Bullseye in it? But Bullseye, like, whenever, people always draw parallels and correlations with between the big two, and they always sort of go, oh, the Green Goblin's kind of Marvel's Joker, and I'm like, no, he fucking isn't. Bullseye's Marvel's Joker. He's terrifying. He loves what he does. He absolutely adores what he's doing. Like, yeah, other villains take glee in it. That guy laughs and cackles. Sure. Bullseye is terrifying, and you should never play him reserved. And Colin Farrell does not play him reserved at all. He's maybe pushing it a little too overboard, but as a result, it means he's one of the best things in the film. Like with this weird little sort of rubbing his branding on his forehead in the shape of a bullseye. Like, bullseye. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? But at the same time, I'm glad you're doing it because I remember you.
What are you doing, Colin?
I remember you.
I'm just having a great time.
Oh my god! Like
I'm just having a good time.
The panel for panel recreation of the death of Elektra, it's phenomenally recaptured. Like there's stuff to love in there, but it's edgelordy.
Yeah,
it wants to have the success of Spider-Man, but it wants to be as violent as Blade. Yet it's not allowed to be, but it's trying so fucking hard to be. Jennifer Garner is a wonderful performer. She is miscast as fuck in this movie as Elektra Natchios. Ben Affleck can give a fucking great performance. He is miscast as fuck in this movie. The costume is still in that weird period where it's trying to not be too comic booky.
Yeah.
So it's like a biker's leather jacket and pants with knee pads and just there's so many odd choices about it. It didn't get a hugely brilliant reception at the time. It was sort of, you know, it seemed to be like it was like a 3-star across the board thing at the time. Everyone was like, yeah, it's cool, it's a lot of fun. But it was never like Spider-Man reception, you know what I mean? And quite rightly so, because it wasn't great. I used to go to bat to this film a lot. Thing is, since this film's come out, we've had the Netflix adaptation.
Yeah.
If the Netflix adaptation is like... if the Netflix adaptation is The Empire Strikes Back, the 2003 movie is Turkish Star Wars. It's memorable, and there's an odd, like, commendability to some of it, but in comparison, it's mostly, the fuck is this? That's not that thing! What is wrong with you? So, as I said at the start of this, you don't have to, like, do a complete heel on the stuff you've outgrown, because I still have a soft spot for this movie. But yeah, I won't be pushing for it or arguing its case anytime soon ever again, because I've been shown how it can be done better and cheaper.
Yeah.
And all it took was a bandana over Charlie Cox's face and D'Onofrio inventing the greatest Netflix drinking game of them all. I call it Take a Shot for This City. I mean, you'll die, but what a way to go. And when he says, I am the alien tent, you have to down whatever you're drinking.
Oh, D'Onofrio's so good in that.
He's so good in it.
You talking about Daredevil's just made me want to watch the Netflix series again.
I've still not watched season 3, so that's an excuse.
You've not watched season 3?
No.
Oh, mate, season 3 is really good!
Chronologically, I'll be honest, The Defenders kind of made me go, huh. As we talked about at the time, it was like, yeah,
I get you there.
And it deflated me, and it took me a while to get around to Jessica Jones season 2, which I watched and really enjoyed. So my plan now is Luke Cage season 2 and Daredevil season 3, and I need to watch Punisher season 2, and maybe one day I'll stick Iron Fist on in the background and watch all of that. I don't know.
So
Daredevil series 3 is the best one out of those ones I've heard.
Yeah. But
like Luke Cage series 2 doesn't have the same for series 1.
No, there's some good stuff
Iron
in there.
Fist 2 is better than Iron Fist 1.
Yeah.
Jessica Jones 3 is good, but like doesn't really take it any higher.
I
just kind
really
of,
liked it.
Yeah, and Punisher series 2 I've sort of not read anything into, but I adored is the wrong word. I'm so glad for series 1 because it was a fucking journey. Like it was uncomfortable and compelling.
I liked the second one quite a lot.
Of Punisher? Okay. Because again, something I loved about that was it. I used to think the Thomas J movie was thinking it's got its moments. I think the Ray Stevenson one's got its moments. It's fun. It's very comic booky.
Yeah,
ultra violent.
it's very silly. Like, I like it quite a lot, but it's very silly.
But the older I've got, the more I'm into the idea of Punisher being a cautionary tale, and the Netflix show is absolutely more.
Yeah, I think the second season leans even more into that. But yeah, I think we should maybe put aside on the project for some far off future, is sort of revisiting all the Netflix shows, because I've not watched Iron Fist season 2. I barely made it through season 1. Like,
I think medically they recommend you don't go beyond season 1.
It was some of the most disappointing shit I've ever seen. Just
speaking of, what is the last thing you outgrew and ain't afraid to admit it? Mayhew.
Something that I loved when it first appeared.
Yeah. Something
that I have sort of revisited over the years and mostly found, pretty pleasing.
Okay.
But in the last sort of 3 or 4 years, as I've become more and more, even more and more liberal lefty, bleeding heart, and sort of more and more conscious.
I think that'll be a massive surprise to so many of our listeners.
Yeah, I know, right? And as I sort of become more conscious of the harm that can be done by something as seemingly innocuous as comedy, and the responsibility that you have as a maker of such things and a consumer of such things to sort of treat certain subjects with some sort of not reverence but respect.
Yeah.
Something that I used to love, but I can't really in all good conscience engage with anymore on any level, really. South Park.
I figured that out about halfway through the setup. I was like, he's going on down to South Park, and he's already had himself a time.
Yeah.
There were friendly faces everywhere, but those humble folks are absolutely with temptation.
I couldn't make it through Stick of Truth.
See, I'm weird. I think I'm disconnected enough from the show that I've enjoyed the 2 video games immensely. For me, they're their own little separate bubble, and
because Keats played through Fractured But Whole, which is where how I sort of experienced it, and I don't think anything in what I saw of her play made me even so much as smile. It's just completely lost me. The humour that they're playing with is just sort of. I can't. It just doesn't hit me the same way it used to, Are
you based on what you said in the setup? Is it because you look at the size of their platform, you look at where they clearly kind of stand, at least as creators,
to a degree,
and the fact that they're using their platform to be so painfully centrist at a time when that's not really the best way to go?
Or even it's like the, sort of the way that they've come down and commented on a lot of the trans rights stuff has just been really disappointing.
Oh, really? Oh, shit.
Yeah, things like they did a whole thing with about women when there was that whole thing about trans women participating in women's sports and being allowed to do that. They did a whole quote unquote joke where they're introducing this female athlete, and it's basically so that it's this female athlete who's transitioned, but they're basically drawn and voiced like Macho Man Randy Savage.
Oh shit!
And it's just like, okay, fine, we're doing this, aren't we? And
God.
They really mock woke culture in some ways that's kind of funny at first, but then they've kept the character like PC Principal. They've kept him.
I was going to say, is that the character that?
And it's just a lot of his stuff kind of falls flat. The fact that he gets into a relationship with a strong independent woman who is literally called Strong Woman, that's her name.
Oh, okay.
And I'm just like,
I'm very much a believer that if your comedy is like, oh, we're going for everybody, then sure, fine,
And
that's cool. But
guess that they kind of
when
are.
there are
But
when you're just punching down, or you're punching down at people who right now really don't need that, like, you know.
but it goes back to the kind of
mock everyone, but if you're gonna put some of those people as your focus, maybe punch up. Maybe punch up at people who deserve to be raked over the coals.
And I think they kind of do, but
it's unequal.
It is unequal, and also it's kind of the sort of their seemingly never-ending quest to be as offensive as possible just comes across as kind of edgelordy and calculated and not sincere. And I guess it's because it's become. And it's not like I don't like Matt Stone and Trey Parker's work and their
Again,
humour.
I feel their non-South Park work in the last 10 years has been the stuff that I've actually followed.
Yeah, I think Book of Mormon's brilliant.
Book of Mormon, Sassy Justice, a recent project of theirs, like the deepfakes thing. So. It's on YouTube. I think there's 2 of them now, but it was pitched as a series. It didn't get picked up. It's them and that guy who recently got notified. You did the Tom Cruise deepfakes. Like this. And it's co-written and starring Peter Serafinowicz, and it's basically just a local TV cable network's like guy uncovering conspiracies, and his name is Fred Justice. This is Sassy Justice. But the novelty of it is that it's stupid already, but every single character in it is a deepfake use of a face of a key figure, a politician or celebrity.
Okay.
So it's just this weird, disarming thing. It's about a guy trying to uncover identity fraud, whilst at the same time he looks like Donald Trump. It's this. Yeah. It's just this odd little project that I think it not becoming a TV series and it instead being this thing they're going to do on YouTube from time to time is actually a better version of it than it would have been if it had been like a series or a film.
Yeah.
And you get Book of Mormon. I'm detached enough from the show that the 2 South Park games didn't bother me as much, but that's also because I've never really followed the show. I've just sort of
it's not necessarily
caught
even
an episode once
that
in a while.
They bothered me. It's just that I just didn't laugh.
Yeah.
It just wasn't funny. And that was as someone who started watching the show when it first aired.
Well, that's the thing too. Do you think it's the same thing as the teen comedies? Because it was right in the sweet spot for you when you were younger. You were of that age where you were still too young to be watching it.
Yeah.
But all the cool kids had stayed up late to watch it.
And it's just like
that might be news to some of our younger listeners. South Park used to be the thing that cool kids stayed up late to watch.
It was disappointing, is what it was. Like, I'm disappointed. It's disappointed me. Like, it's when you... Because it's not something I was always on top of. It's something I would go back to every now and again.
Yeah. I mean, I still think the film works on its own, for example.
Well, we watched the film together a couple of years back.
Yeah.
And I think most of that stuff still works.
Especially because it's more just their take on the musical and the outrage response to the show in its first 5 years.
Yeah.
Like it was first couple of years actually, wasn't it? It was like 2 years into the show's run, the film came out.
I think for me it's definitely because the lines on a lot of like social issues have been drawn, and they're kind of
dancing on either side at all times.
Yeah, it's not even that they're refusing to take sides. They're just so. It is very edgelordy. It's like, oh, look at how offensive we can be.
They're like if the radio stations on a Grand Theft Auto game ran for 25 seasons of television. Yeah. It's just like, really?
I think it's also because of the age of the creators. Like, I think they're so disconnected now from what the wider culture is that they don't necessarily have that sort of connection to it that they did when they first started doing the show. And I just think the comedy has suffered.
It'd be interesting to see what the offices for that show are like what the writer's room is like the people involved, because it's possible there just isn't a diverse enough range of voices working behind it that everyone would kind of be more aware of each other, and everyone's different, like different struggles in the day-to-day that don't deserve to be the thing they punch.
And also because I don't know if it still is, but the turnaround was so quick between episodes, infamously so, that I just don't think
if you go back and watch seasons, there's in-jokes and allegories that make no sense unless you remember what the news cycle was between the months of June and November of 2012.
But it's not even that, it's that they don't, because it's like a 7-day to air turnaround. I think that there's just not the space for them to look at what they're writing, look at what they've recorded and go, maybe we shouldn't do this. And if there is, I don't think they have that self-awareness, because I just think they are less concerned with how the stuff's going to land and more concerned with, do they think it's funny and it's going to annoy people? Which I get, but
there's a way to make comedy that softly trolls your audience and whatnot, that also isn't harmful to your audience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But it's
Christ's sake, back in the day, like, Monty Python's Flying Circus, for example, there's an infamous episode that when it went out live, the sound mix on the episode had been edited so that it went quieter and quieter over the course of the 29 minutes. So people would, in 1973 when it aired, people would be getting up and turning their TV up a bit because they're like, it's quiet, isn't it? And then in the last 2 minutes, the volume just returns to normal level. So people's TVs were just super loud all of a sudden out of nowhere.
That's actually brilliant.
Do you see what I mean? But that's trolling without harming anyone.
Yeah.
It's just funny. It's like, oh, for you bastards, you got me. And it's taking the piss without there being a victim.
Yeah.
And maybe it's time that stuff like South Park kind of went.
But it's just sort of this.
Went that way instead.
Look at us, we're so offensive, we offend everyone. And it just doesn't work for me anymore, not in the way it used to. Mainly because that is not something that I hold as a badge of pride anymore.
How about you, listeners? We're curious. Is there anything you've outgrown? Any show, film, music that you outgrew? Whether it's just because you moved on in terms of your taste, or whether because, like, South Park, for example, you're like, shitting hell, guys. The fuck are you doing?
I think a fair amount of people have outgrown this show, but we won't know because they won't hear this plea for getting in touch.
Imaljuez. If you've got a thought, let us know. bigdamncontact@gmail.com. You can also tweet them to us at bigdamcast. If you get them to us within a couple of days after the release of this, might even talk about it in that next episode.
Yeah.
Who knows? Do you know what else we'll be talking about in that next episode? Falcon and the motherfucking Winter Soldier.
Oh, yes, boy.
Episode 1.
You know what else we'll be talking about?
Oh, what?
My experience with the COVID-19 vaccine, because I'm getting my jab on the Saturday.
Dude, what?
I don't know why.
Did you get a letter or like?
I got a text.
Holy shit!
But I was asked to book it, so I've booked my first COVID-19 vaccine jab. Again, I don't know what made me so eligible.
It's because you said you're 70 on all your census forms for a laugh.
I gave them my date of birth.
I may have switched some of the numbers around, and I may have been using a cane for no reason when I did it, but I did it.
So, yeah.
I may have told them that I'm allergic to all things except death.
If I have any side effects, you'll hear about them on the next episode.
Oh, God.
Because I may still be experiencing them.
You can also catch Matt pre, post, and mid-vaccine on twitch.tv/bigdamstream.
Pre-vaccine, certainly.
For adventures in backlogging.
Yeah.
We will also appreciate it if you chuck us a few shekels, because it helps keep the lights on and fill us with booze. We've not used it to buy booze yet, but we could. Patreon.com/bigdamcast. But until next time, quick, think of an intro or an outro, or say something profound.
Bye.